Hi, everyone. We will get started in just a minute or so, waiting for a couple more attendees to log on. Thanks. Welcome, everyone. We will get started in just a minute or so. Thank you. Okay, we're waiting for one more panelist to join us, and when he joins us, we will start the webinar. Thanks for your patience.
Hey, John.
Hey, good to see you. I think we're going to go ahead and get started, everyone. Let me shut down the captions here, and we will get going. Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is John Dolan, and I'm a public education specialist for UC Davis Continuing and Professional Education. And I want to welcome you to our information session for the Lean Six Sigma Green Belt. Couple admin things. This session is being recorded, and I will send the recording out to you the next 24 to 48 hours. We will have a Q&A session at the end of this, but if you have questions as we go through, please feel free to put those into the chat. Um, let's go over our agenda today. So first of all, the cohort starts on Friday, March 22nd, so about a month away. We still have room in the cohort. It meets every other Friday from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And it's about a 12-week cohort. So there is still room. There'll be some registration information at the end, but we look forward to seeing you the first class, which starts on Friday, March 22nd. Okay, here's our agenda today. I'm John Dolan again, public education specialist and Lean Six Sigma Green Belt owner. I took this class about 3 years ago, and it's made a difference in my professional and personal life. Um, Gay will be introducing himself in just a moment. We'll talk about what the program is about, give you a kind of a high-level overview. We'll walk through both the academic requirements and what are your expectations of being enrolled into the program. And then we'll have some questions at the end. That's me. That's my contact information. Again, I got my green belt in 2021. and you can enroll a couple of ways. You can simply call that number to our Student Service Center, and they will enroll you, and or you can go online and enroll that way as well. You'll be hearing from me throughout the term of the cohort. I work with Gabe and the other instructors on managing the day-to-day program requirements, and I'll be there at the first class, and we'll pop in throughout the term. Gabe, please introduce yourself.
All right, great. How's the audio on your side, John? We're good? All right,
Very good.
awesome. So welcome everyone. Excited about the upcoming cohort. A little bit about my background here. So I went through the certification for the Master Black Belt for Lean Six Sigma a while back, and I've had a chance to apply that for a number of process improvement projects at my current organization. I've been with my current employer, SMUD, for a little over 17 years now, and I have served as the OpEx lead for the organization, operational excellence, that is, and had a chance to use a lot of the tools and concepts that the certification offered in that role. I currently work on a team that does organizational effectiveness work and enterprise change work. We kind of have a team of, I'll call them internal HR consultants. So in that role, get a lot of opportunities to partner closely with senior leaders that have processes they're looking to improve, prioritize where to start, and then apply the DMAIC methodology that this Greenbelt program will offer you. So really excited about the upcoming cohort and happy to answer your questions today.
Super. Thanks, Gabe. So let's talk about what Lean Six Sigma actually is, and what happens when you get your green belt. So this is the LIS provides a very systematic method to do a couple of really important things. First of all, to improve performance, and then in the business operations, you'll reduce variation in that, and then there's definitely a measure of achieving productivity and gains in your profit margin as well. Once you get your green belt, there's a number of benefits from that. Just from a very high level perspective, you'll be playing an important role in the success of your organization's process improvement. Most organizations are looking for ways to have a more efficient look at things, eliminate waste, and Lean Six Sigma, the belt will give you a good handle in becoming a part of that operation. You'll be involved in selecting the larger projects, setting what those objectives are, and really becoming a method of change for your organization. And then you'll be applying the Lean Six Sigma tools, concepts, and methodologies in a variety of ways and situations. It's as simple as organizing, maybe a room to doing much higher end calculations. Gabe, anything else you want to add to the kind of the general view of this?
No, it's a great summary. Every now and then we'll get questions about how do we distinguish between the green belt and the black belt. And so in case that question is on anyone's mind, really this program will help equip you if there's a specific opportunity that's been identified by leadership, you can really serve effectively as the project manager, soup to nuts, on that effort. Once you finish this program, you'll have lots of opportunities to practice using these in a real world environment. This is not just theory. It's a lot of focus on practice and application and iteration. So the black belt programs out there will typically equip you to do more advanced statistical process analysis, statistical process control. So when you're dealing with very large data sets, the black belt program can help you with analyzing those and using those to help set thresholds and do other things to understand how that process is performing. The other part of the black belt program is it can also equip you to then coach and mentor green belts and then really think about process improvement at the organizational level, at the portfolio level. So just wanted to distinguish that. What I find is that for about 95% of folks, the green belt is a really important foundation, and that's going to give you really all the tools you need that you're going to be using the vast majority of the time. So just wanted to put that out there.
Super. Thanks, Gabe. Who should be attending the Lean Six Sigma Green Belt cohort? Well, here's the important thing is if you want to become a better project manager, if you want to understand how to contribute to your organization's need for efficiency, that's who should be attending it. But there's a number of labeled people that usually come into the cohort, a lot of project operational program managers, a lot of BAs, management system analysts. And really, if you're middle management or actually a director or leader, you'll want to understand Lean Six Sigma as a means of motivating and moving your team forward. And really, it's for any individual wanting to experience and education in the process of improvement. It's so important because part of Lean Six Sigma is this really nice combination of being a project manager and being a detective as well. And I always like the detective side of the program because you become a more curious individual by having a green belt, and your colleagues will understand that too. So, what are the major benefits of the program? Gabe, I'll let you walk through this slide, but I will just say that that the program is different from other Lean Six Sigma programs in the area for two reasons. One, we teach this in a synchronous fashion, meaning you will work with Gabe every other Friday from 9 to 12. He'll go through the concepts, bring in real world examples. And that's so important. Other offerings have taped lectures, and you're in more of a self-study mode. That's very hard because this is a very complicated cohort, and being able to work with Gabe and his team every other Friday is so important. I think the other benefit is that from day one you'll be working on a project, and that project is something that you'll work on every week and get to the point where at the end of the cohort you'll actually bring that project back to your organization and implement change right away. But Gabe, why don't you walk us through some of the other benefits?
Thanks, John. I really appreciated the points you just made there. I think that that project component is so important. It's one thing to have the theory, it's one thing to have the knowledge and what you should do. It's a whole nother ball of wax to get a chance to apply each of those tools throughout the course of that 13, 14 weeks for the program and get feedback on how that's going. You get a chance to really kick the tires on each of the tools we introduce and apply those for that project, get feedback, and then continue to iterate as you move forward. So I definitely agree that's a real unique value for this program. I when I did my green belt, it was with a different institution, and they had a case study. It was a healthcare case study. Now, for those who work in healthcare, it was very easy to see how things translated. But if you didn't work in that industry, it was a little bit more of a stretch. And it's not that there was no value, but it's not the same as having something in your organization, in your world, even if you're, let's say you're volunteering for a nonprofit, it could be in that space. It doesn't have to be your day job, so to speak, but we do ask for a real world project for that reason. We talked about, John alluded to the mentorship, so that's ongoing feedback, guidance you're getting from myself, as well as from the assistant instructor, Ron. So we team up to offer that feedback and mentorship along the way. Proven techniques, really, we've looked at, there's a huge universe of potential tools and techniques that you could use from that Lean Six Sigma toolkit. We've really honed in on what's the subset of those that are going to be most useful about 90% of the time. What's the smaller number so we can go deeper on a smaller number of tools and really make sure you get some practical application and experience using those. So that's kind of been our philosophy. And then we've got the badge from Credly. John, do you want to talk a little bit more about the badge piece?
Yeah, the badge is a digital badge from Credly, and the badge is something that you attach to your LinkedIn profile that you sometimes attach at the end of your email. And what it signifies is the skills that you received that you learned through the Greenbelt program. And a digital badge shows your manager, shows potential employers what skills you actually gained from going through the program. I think the other benefit really is, and we have to state the obvious, that you'll have a relationship with UCD, with UC Davis, on a couple of different levels. One, UCD became a charter Lean Six Sigma school in 2019, and they have a Lean Six Sigma community that meets every quarter through the Office of Business Transformation, and they become mentors to you. They become sponsors. If you're blocked in any way, there's a whole community out there at UC Davis that will help you through any programs or working with sponsors. And I think the other part of it is UC Davis, it's the second largest employer in the area. And if you come to UC Davis looking for employment and you have a green belt already, that will give you an edge up on other applicants. Okay, what to expect in the program? Gabe, walk us through.
Okay, great. So each week we have a different focus, and some of these are multi-week that are on the slide, but essentially start off with how do you make sure you've got a really strong, really clear scope for your project? What's identifying what's in scope, what's out of scope, and we'll work with you on that. So we ask you to be thinking about potential projects even before the program starts, and then I'll give you feedback in terms of, hey, is this scope about right given the amount of time we have to work with in the Greenbelt program, or is it maybe too big or even too small? So generally speaking, we find that folks are sometimes biting off a little more than they can chew. So we really work hard to right size that scope and make sure it's something that's doable during the course of the program. The framework we're using is a very well established Lean Six Sigma framework called DMAIC. So we work through each of these phases over that 13, 14 weeks. We need to define the problem that we're solving, make sure we get customer input there, make sure we measure how that process is performing, analyze, do some root cause analysis, improve what are some ideas to improve that process, and then think about controlling the improvements once they're put in place. So we do a deep dive on each and every phase in that DMAIC process, and we make sure that you leave with anywhere from 2 to 4 tools to help you be successful for each of those DMAIC steps. A3 thinking is another piece that we weave throughout the program. It's both a tool, there's an A3 template that helps you summarize all of the process elements. I think we've got some screen captures coming up. But also, if we step back a little bit, it's also really a way of thinking about problems and how we solve those problems. So it's both a mindset as well as a tool that we talk about a lot over the course of the program, and lots of opportunities to iterate on that because you'll get feedback as you build your A3 gradually over the course of the program. These are just some of the many, many tools that you'll get introduced to. How do you map a process? If you haven't done this before, we'll give you lots of tools and tips to do that successfully. Make sure you understand the current state and the desired future state. Talk about standard work. That's part of that control process. 5S is if you're looking to improve a physical space. Kanban is a tool that we can use for understanding the who's doing what and when in terms of improving that process. We talk a lot about mistake proofing when we get to the control phase. You'll leave with some tools to help you with getting everyone involved in the ideation step. Talk about a couple of different ways, several different ways actually to go about brainstorming and harnessing those ideas. We'll look at risk, we'll look at change management, and then at the end, make sure you've got a really comprehensive checklist. How do you close out that project and know if you've been successful? And on that right-hand side, we've talked about a little bit already, this is not a deep dive, on statistical analysis, we do have Excel workbooks that we provide to give you some of the most common tools to analyze data. And these are ones that anyone can use as long as they've got Excel or Google Google Sheets. So we do introduce those, and that can help you specifically with the measure phase and understanding if you do have some data for your process, things like Pareto charts, for example. So, but this is not a deep dive. There's other programs, especially at the black belt, where you might use specialized software to analyze really big data sets. So we're relying on tools that most folks are going to already have at their fingertips.
Yeah, Gabe, one of the questions coming in and you touched upon this, is around the technical requirements. So we're not asking people to be computer majors taking this program. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, just basic computer literacy is all you need.
Great, super. And again, the focus is on small projects, not very complex projects. And the distinction, Gabe, is important. Why?
We want to make sure that you have just that right level of scope so that you have a chance to actually use the tools as we move through the program and not feel like you're not making enough progress along the way, so we can get you feedback on each of the tools there. So again, you'll get feedback on the scope. You'll provide a draft, and then we have built into the program, you're going to get feedback, and then you'll provide a second draft. And that's important to help us right size it and make sure we're not. Sometimes our eyes are bigger than our stomach, so we want to make sure we don't end up in that trap.
Super. So how do you get your green belt? What are the requirements, the academic requirements for actually obtaining your green belt badge? So first is obviously attend all live sessions. And we understand that life sometimes throws you a curve, or you have other commitments. And if for some reason you need to miss one live session, let Gabe know. Let us know. We can figure out if there's a workaround. But the requirement is for you to attend all live sessions. The knowledge assessment is a passing score of 75%. So we run this out on our LMS, which is Canvas. And if you've taken online courses before, you've probably worked in some type of LMS, but everything is captured within the Canvas environment. We ask that you complete and turn all your assignments via the Canvas, via Canvas. That way we have really a record of your work, and that's where we'll do our communication. That's where you'll see your grades. That's how we do announcements as well. There are assignments. We ask you to complete all assignments on time, and there'll be a syllabus associated with this. And that will have your timetables and the schedules that you are required to meet. And then, as Gabe said, we want you to complete one project. So the course schedule is live Zoom sessions. Now, again, every other Friday starting March 22nd from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And then when you're not in the synchronous session, you'll be doing work on your own, self-study, and then project work on the off week. So 1 week on, 1 week off, and during your week off is when you'll be adding on to your project. Again, from day one, you'll be working on this charter/project and be adding on to it, building onto it throughout the 12 weeks. When I took my green belt, I was blocked at the beginning because I was not understanding how to move my project forward, how to fill in the gaps. And I sat down with the instructor at the time, and it was a simple means of understanding the metrics, understanding how one class builds on another. And that's very, very important because I'll tell you, as a former student, you don't want to get too far behind because it's hard to make up items. And then your time commitment is about 35 to 40 hours, again, depending upon the complexity of your project. So again, every other Friday, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m., starting Friday, March 22nd. And here's the schedule, which Gabe will walk you through.
Thanks, John. So the way we've designed this is every other week we have our in-class sessions via Zoom. We'll introduce some concepts, some tools. We'll walk through examples. Examples are so important that it not just be a blank template, but actually give you some real world examples. The other thing we do is throughout the program, I bring in guest speakers as well. So you'll hear some additional real world examples of projects from the speakers that I'll invite in. Usually I'll have about 3 to 4 each with each cohort. So we have those as part of our biweekly Zoom sessions. And then on the off week, as John alluded to, that's your chance to really apply the knowledge, the tools that we've just introduced in the prior week. And then you'll submit that, you'll get feedback. And then some of the assignments you're actually turning in multiple drafts, others you're not. But that's the cadence that we have in the program. And the feedback we've gotten is that this design has worked really, really well for folks. They've got that interval, enough of an interval there to apply, to try some things, submit a draft work product and get feedback and continue to iterate. And then you can see the topics across the bottom align with some of the topics we talked about before. I will say that we really focus again on not just the theory, but making sure that we anchor all of this in examples and lots of opportunity for Q&A, which is so important. So there should never be a point in the program where you don't have a question answered because you'll get so many opportunities along the way. There's a piece at the end there that talks about the final project. So what we do have is everyone will submit a summary of how they applied the various tools to their project. The good thing is they're really recapping some of the other assignments they've submitted along the way and then adding some reflection pieces at the very end. And then there's going to be an opportunity. Usually we'll have about 7 to 8 spots available for folks to share their case studies in that final week. So that's a great opportunity to learn from each other. And those are always offer great insights along the way.
Thanks, Gabe. Gabe, when I took the class, I think one of the things that was so important for me was to understand in this second class problem definition and understanding how important it is to identify the problem. Could you speak to that a little bit more? Because for me, getting off on the right track and understanding like the terminology and the right doorway was so
Mhm.
important for getting my project underway. But what's the importance of problem definition?
Yeah, we'll in the kickoff we'll talk about some guidelines for problem definition, and we come back to that in the defined stage. Quite often, what happens is initially we have some sense that there's a problem or an opportunity to improve. However, it's not until we ask a lot of questions and start to do a little bit of investigating that we may find out that actually that's not the real problem that we need to solve. It's actually something different, or it's over here. Maybe there's an underlying issue that we need to tackle. So we tee up a lot of that in the kickoff to prepare you for that. And then we do an even deeper dive in that week 2. And then again, you're going to be gradually building your A3 template and you'll have a problem statement. But again, it'll just be a first draft. We'll look at it and we'll give you some feedback. And sometimes they're spot on. In other cases, it may need a little bit of tweaking, or we'll ask you to go back and ask some follow-up questions. But it really all starts with a clear understanding of, am I solving the right problem?
Super. Yeah. Let's take a pause here. I'm going to pull up, see if anybody put any questions in the chat real quick. Okay. I think we're okay for right now. And again, we'll have a Q&A session at the end, but thank you for that. So again, this concept of identifying your project. Here are some of the questions to think through. What is a problem you are trying to solve? Okay. So do you want to reduce wait time? Do you want to reduce process steps? Do you want to improve margin somehow? Is there an opportunity to reduce the number of customer complaints? Do you want to make something go quicker, more efficient? Is there a means to free up more capacity? And then how likely are the key stakeholders to embrace solving this problem now? And I think the idea behind this is we want you to bring this project back into the organization right away. And sometimes your organization's not ready for that. Sometimes they're not ready to understand how to be more efficient. So you want to make sure that your organization, your project sponsor, is ready for you to undertake the project and bring it back into the organization. And then what are the performance measures that need to be improved? Think about this. Is it costs? Is there a defect somehow? Is it not being handed off correctly? Is it a vendor who's giving you issues? Are there lead times that could be improved? Is the wait time too long? So think about how and what can be improved in the performance measure. And then what really indicates that there is a problem? What's the data available? And can you review that data or can you go out and obtain that data? What's the historical account of that problem? Talk to people. Go out and interview people. Get their views on it. And if there is available data, use that. And then do you have the influence and the authority to implement the changes? Can you be the lead? Can you be the lead on a project and make the changes within the organization? Sometimes you can, and sometimes the organization is not ready, but you have to figure that out as well. And then finally, do you have the support needed to carve out time to work on this project? Have you talked to your manager? Have you talked to your colleagues saying, hey, this is something that I want to work on? They'll make me more efficient, and I think the organization will be better for it as well. So make sure you're transparent about all that. Make sure that people who are going to be interacting with you know what you're doing and they are on board with it. And that's very, very important. Gabe, anything else you want to add here?
No, just two quick points. That was a great summary. In terms of that second bullet on key stakeholders who can embrace solving the problem now, really this comes down to having a strong sponsor identified. That's going to be one of the first things we talk about in the kickoff. And this is something you can already start to socialize within your organization, talking to your immediate manager if it's something local within your area, perhaps your manager's manager if it's something that may span a couple of different teams. And this is really important that you have that strong support to help clear roadblocks that are going to come up along the way and really help make sure it goes beyond just the theory and you can move into that application. So we do talk about tips and strategies and questions to ask your sponsor to help move things forward. That's going to be a really, really important part of the success of your project. And then back down to authority or influence. Sometimes you're the one who's doing the implementing. In some cases, you're really relying on others to help implement or relying on your sponsor to help implement these changes. So near the end of that project, when we get into the improve and the control phase, we're asking you to put these plans together so you have a really clear action plan for implementation. We're not going to be measuring the success of that implementation. We are measuring the quality of your implementation plan and your control plan. So just wanted to make that clear because as you move into that last phase, there's sometimes elements that are a little bit outside of your control.
Yeah, and I agree with that. On my specific project, I will relay this that my project sponsor actually moved on to a different position. And I had to go out and get a new sponsor. And in fact, it was co-sponsored. So I actually had two people that I was working with who became my project sponsors. So we know that things can shift a little bit, and again, work with Gabe and his team to figure out the right pathway for you. Okay, so here are some samples of storyboards, and if you look at these in detail, you can say, wow, that's a lot. But first of all, these are two different storyboard projects. There's one on the left here and one on the right here. And Gabe, maybe you can just walk us through what each of these boxes are and the importance of
Mhm.
them.
Sure. So earlier I talked about this A3 template, and the idea there is you would have a single page snapshot of your process improvement project. And so that's what these examples are. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about all the bullets on these, but just to give you a high level view, each week we're going to walk through these different elements. So make sure you've got some good context and background for the project. Where's this issue coming from? Make sure you have a good understanding of what's the current state in terms of how that process is doing. We need to have clear targets for what the future state looks like, and we'll talk a lot about metrics in the measure phase of DMAIC. Talk about a lot of examples, and we typically get a lot of questions around metrics, so we'll do a deep dive there. This box number 5 is about experiments, and part of the Lean Six Sigma approach or methodology is a real willingness to try new things, experiment, learn from that, and then think about, okay, what are we ready to potentially scale up? So can we pilot something on a small scale, learn from that, and then figure out what we're ready to do on a bigger scale? So we're going to ask you to identify usually 2 to 3 experiments that you can run to see if these ideas that you have for improvement would actually move the needle or not. And then implementation, I talked earlier about having a clear action plan. You got some examples of that on the screen. And then finally, insights and follow-up. We have you build out this 30, 60, 90-day plan to know what are my process measures that'll tell me if this process is actually improving or not. You can see a couple of examples on the slide of what that looks like. So this is part of that final presentation. We're going to put all the pieces together. We've got assignments that go a little bit deeper into each of those elements. And again, in that final week, one of the fun parts of the class is getting to hear and learn about examples of what your colleagues have done over the course of the program.
Gabe, one of the projects that was in my cohort is one of my favorites. It's someone from UC Davis facilities came in to the cohort, and their project was why couldn't they finish tasks on a more timely basis? Again, this was facilities. So one of the tools is called the 5 whys. And they went through that exercise, and the 5 whys finally determined that one of the main drivers for why they couldn't finish projects on a timely basis is that they couldn't find tools in a timely basis. They couldn't find the tools they needed to finish up projects. So their project finally was around rebuilding and restoring their tool shed. And it was a great way to solve the concept of why can't they finish projects on time? Well, they couldn't find the tools. So their project was about redoing their tool shed. And that's an example of how simple projects can be sometimes, but it was very well thought out. They used a lot of the tools that are part of this, and it was really neat to see them so satisfied at the end, so satisfied at the end.
Yeah, that's awesome. Really happy to hear that. And it's one of the fun things about the program is because we end up getting a good mix of folks in each cohort. You'll hear about examples of lots of different types of processes being improved. We typically have majority of the projects tend to be more administrative type processes, but we also typically get a handful that are more from a manufacturing or equipment perspective. So again, the variety of projects is really valuable from a learning perspective.
Yeah. And again, at UC Davis, there is a Lean Six Sigma group that even after the cohort's done, you'll have other people to talk to ask about your project, to see how you can implement it. And if you're looking at using other Lean Six Sigma tools, they'll provide some guidance on that as well. Okay. So let's go into the admin portion of the program. So the tuition is 24.95. There are discounts available. 100% off, $100 off for just attending today's info session. There are group discounts. If you're Aggie, there's an alumni discount. And then as a staff, you'll get a discount for that as well. Discounts cannot be combined. And they, I think the important thing is there is room in the current cohort, and you can register up to about a week before. So the cutoff date right now is March 15th, but if we need to extend that, I'll be happy to do that. So Lean Six Sigma is not just about implementing the project and your charter. If you have that skill, employers will know that. Sometimes people come to continuing and professional education to skill up, and getting a green belt from UC Davis through the Lean Six Sigma program is definitely skilling up. People who have a green belt have a $8,000 higher salary according to job postings in the area. And the local companies that are looking for people who have a Lean Six Sigma green belt are UC Davis Health, so the medical campus and the affiliate campuses in the medical system, University of California, Kaiser, PG&E, Oracle, Lockheed Martin. Um, and these are just sort of the bigger employers, but the important thing is that this skill is emerging right now. People are looking for employees who have good project management skills, who can come in and create efficiencies within their organization. And that's really the important part of the Lean Six Sigma Green Belt. Right away, you can have an impact in your organization. We are at the point where we have some questions and answers. If you have anything that we haven't covered yet, or if there are things that we haven't talked about, now is the time to bring those forward.
John, I see this question here from a student in the chat about if they'll be required to sit for an exam.
Mhm.
And we do have knowledge checks over the course of the program. And I think we had a bullet earlier that talked about the minimum score on those. It's not a giant cumulative exam. They're shorter exams throughout the course of the program. And so this is not something where you're going into a proctored test environment. So just wanted to kind of clarify that for the individual who had asked.
Super, super. See, we have another question. What if you can't, let's see, what if you can't finish the project on time? Um, I guess the question is around being able to finish the final project.
Yeah, so just to offer some reassurance there, as we get near the end of that DMAIC process, we're going to have you put together a action plan. Here's what needs to happen when, after you've done your experiments, you've tried a few things, you have an idea of what might be ready to scale up. We're not asking you to have fully implemented that plan. We are asking you to have a fairly detailed, specific plan of action for what needs to happen next. And then for the control phase, similarly, we're going to have you put together a fairly robust control plan for all of those elements that need to happen, whether that's standard work or training, policies, et cetera, to make sure that those changes are lasting, but we're not going to be measuring how successful that control plan was in terms of being fully implemented. So just wanted to offer that reassurance.
And this is a good spot on question. What's the major difference between the Lean Six Sigma Green Belt and getting a certificate in project management?
Hmm. Yeah, it's a good question. So project management is certainly a valuable skill. You've got the PMI, Project Management Institute, that publishes the big body of knowledge for what a good project manager needs to know. So that's certainly a valuable skill set, and that can be applied for really any project. The Greenbelt program is specifically about a set of tools and techniques to help you improve a repeatable process. So you can see those are two slightly different things. One is about managing a project of any kind. The other one here, this program is really about if there's something that could be done more efficiently, or we need to work on quality, or back to the earlier example, maybe we need to improve margin for a particular product or process. This equips you with a very specialized skill set and tool set to tackle process improvement. So again, there's certainly some value to having a little bit of project management skill that you can bring to bear as a green belt. However, it's not a prerequisite. We're going to give you lots of tools that can help you manage this process improvement project.
Super.
So another question here about how refined does the project need to be on day one? So the good thing is we are going to ask you to come in with some idea of what your project might be. However, you'll have an opportunity to get feedback during the kickoff session on your initial idea, your concept, and then there's a chance to iterate a little bit on that as you submit that. There's going to be an assignment that asks you to identify the problem statement and share some background, some high level scope. And that's going to be another opportunity to continue to sort of zoom in and refine and iterate on that scope and focus. So in other words, we're not asking you to have this fully fleshed out on day one or week one. It's absolutely an iterative process.
And there was one more question, if this was associated with that organization, Gabe.
Yeah, so off the top of my head, I would say I'd need to take a closer look at the IAASC to tell you how well aligned it is. If you want to provide an email address, we can follow up and give you kind of a side-by-side comparison. We have done benchmarking to look at the curriculum vis-a-vis other programs out there, and I would say we're right in line with the more reputable programs out there.
Super. Gabe, do you see any more questions? I see nothing more on my end.
I'm not seeing anything else on this end.
Okay, good. What are the next steps then? Again, we do have room. Currently, we have room in the cohort. You can enroll at any time up through March 15th. And again, if you need to extend it closer to the March 22nd by getting permissions from your manager, we can work with you on that. That's the enrollment information. You can call. Info is at that. And again, classes start March 22nd at 9 a.m. And I want to thank you all for attending. I will be sending out the recorded information session to each of you. And we thank you for your time. Gabe, thank you again for your time as well.
Great. Thanks, folks. Hopefully we'll see you in the program.
Bye now. Bye, everyone.